Erica Wojcik, the product educator at babyage.com. I want to thank everyone for joining us today, and a special thanks to Sarah Tilton, the Child Passenger Safety Advocate for BRITAX Child Safety, Inc., who's going to be teaching us all about the revolutionary Clicktight system. Sarah is passionate about child safety, and that can be seen through the work she does with BRITAX and her community. Sarah is a spokesperson for BRITAX within the advocacy community, participating in child passenger safety activities at a local, state, and national level. She serves on the new product development, technical writing, and marketing teams at BRITAX. In addition, she managed and developed the training curriculum for BRITAX Consumer Services Department and organized and implemented a permanent checking station during her tenure with the company. Sarah is currently active with the Safe Kids South Carolina, South Kids York County, South Carolina, Safe Kids in North Carolina, and Charlotte-Mecklenburg coalitions. She's also a member of the North Carolina Child Passenger Safety Training Committee and the National Child Passenger Safety Board, representing the at-large population. So Sarah, thank you so much for joining us, and we all look forward to hearing all about this new system.
Thank you for having me, Erica. I'm glad to be here. Can we go to the next slide, please? I don't seem to have control.
There you go. You should be set.
Whoops. There we go. Sorry. So thank you, everybody, for joining us. I hope that today's webinar will be educational for you guys. This is my contact information, so please feel free, if you have questions after the webinar, to contact me. Email is the easiest way because it is easier for me to respond via email, but I will get back to you as soon as possible. And again, thank you for joining us. So before we actually talk about the Clicktight installation system, I want to give you a little bit of education and background about what BRITAX, or what brought BRITAX to developing Clicktight. For all of us, we know that child safety seats reduce the risk of fatal injury by 71% for infants and 54% for toddlers in passenger cars. But for those seats to be effective, they have to be installed correctly. The child has to be secured in the car seat correctly. And we can install it with lower anchors or seat belts, which are equally safe when they're used correctly. And so we know that lower anchors have a weight capacity, and that can be a challenge. And we'll talk a little bit more about that as well as we move on. So the first thing, LATCH in our toolbox to install car seats, that set of metal anchors in our vehicle seat bite with top tethers. Vehicles manufactured on or after September 1st of 2002 will have 2 sets of the lower anchors in the seat bite and then 3 top tether anchors. When this was brought to market, it was developed it started being developed in the early 90s, and it took until 1999 before a final rule was actually published. And during that development process, the highest weight harnessed seat for the most part on the market was a 40-pound car seat. The car seat roughly weighed about 17 pounds or so. So when you put all of that together, LATCH as a system was never intended to accommodate more than a total of 65 pounds. When they brought this, some of the comments that they made in the final rule was, this rule makes it easier to install child restraints by eliminating the current dependence of motorists on vehicle seatbelts as the means of installing child restraints in vehicles. Well, we as advocates have done such a great job in educating you as caregivers about the safeties of keeping our children in a 5-point harness longer, that our car seats in the industry today goes well above that 40-pound harness capacity. So there's challenges and limitations for us as caregivers to get it right. And I say us as caregivers, I do have 2 grown children, but I also have 2 granddaughters to make sure that they ride safely in car seats as well. And it is challenging to get it right. When we look at the lower anchors in vehicles and the connectors, lower connectors that are actually attached to the car seats. So that top left picture, vehicle seat contours and where those lower anchors are placed in the vehicle can be challenging. You can see on the left, you can't see those lower anchors at all. In that center seating position, they're pretty visible and pretty well pronounced. And then that picture on the right is actually showing that there is a latch system in the center seating position, which is not common. Typically, they're in the outboard seating positions. But if we were to use latch in that center seating position, the car seat would be sitting on top of the seat belt buckle for that outboard position. For the car seat installation, that might not be an issue, but you would not safely be able to transport another occupant because they wouldn't be able to access their seatbelt. And then when we take the hidden vehicle anchors or the very pronounced and visible lower anchors and mix it with any one of these lower attachments that we see on various car seat models, it sometimes can be very challenging to get a firm installation or a tight installation, less than 1 inch left to right and front to back. So these lower anchors do have weight capacities that are prescribed by the vehicle manufacturer, and typically they range 40 or 48 pounds for child weight. And that is also prescribed on our car seat labels. And when I say ours, not just ours, BRITAX, but car seats in the industry will tell you at what weight, child weight, you should discontinue and convert to a seat belt. And it is typically 40 or 48 pounds. And when do you switch from the use of the lower anchors to seat belts for the installation of the child restraint? So one of them is going to be that dictated weight capacity by your child restraint and or vehicle. And you would know those weight capacities, again, from the child restraint. It'll be on the labels and it'll be in the user guides. For vehicles, unfortunately, while there are lower anchor capacities for the vehicle, most vehicle manuals today do not provide that numerical value. But you can find out what that is by contacting the customer service department for your make of vehicle, so Ford or Chevrolet, etc. Some other challenges with installation of car seats is vehicle seat belts. And you know, I mentioned earlier that car seats have to be installed correctly, and the child has to be secured in them correctly to be effective. 3 out of 4 car seats are either used or installed incorrectly. And this is a national statistic. So really that's pretty scary if we stop and think about how many friends we have that have children in car seats, and 1 out of every 4 that we know probably have a misuse with their car seat, whether it's installed incorrectly or they're being secured in it incorrectly. One of the things with our seatbelt, for you and I as adults, we know when we get in the vehicle, we know how to put our seatbelt on. We reach up, we grab that latch plate, and we buckle up. Sometimes, or very often, what we don't know as a new caregiver especially is that just putting that seatbelt through a car seat like we put it over us and buckle it, is not enough to make that car seat firmly installed in the vehicle. We need to pre-crash lock that vehicle seatbelt somehow. And whether that is by applying that metal clip that comes with some car seats called a locking clip. In some vehicles, the latch plate, that piece that slides on the webbing that you buckle into the buckle, sometimes that locks. And sometimes you have to pull the vehicle webbing all the way out and switch the retractor. The retractor is the mechanism that holds all the excess seatbelt webbing. There is a lockability act in place that does require vehicle seatbelt systems in the rear seating positions for either the latch plate or the retractor to lock purposely for the installation of car seats. But while we have that lockability requirement, it does make the locking clip obsolete, but it still depends on us as the user knowing that we have to and making the effort to manipulate that belt system to pre-crash lock it. And that is typically one of the larger misuses, is that people don't do that. So I'm going to share with you a little bit of information from a study that was done by Safe Kids USA, and they are located in Washington, D.C., and there are approximately 37,000 certified technicians across the country. But they actually wrote a report on 79,000 seat check forms that they did and collected between October 2009 and September 2010. And when they looked at that information, they found that 30% of the car seats of those 79,000 forms were installed with lower anchors, and 68% of them were installed with the vehicle seat belt. Now those other few numbers of the variance in children, they were either not restrained or they might have just been in a seat belt without a restraint. When we looked at when they looked at the correct use of those that 30% of car seats installed with lower anchors, 54% of them were installed correctly, but that meant that 46% of them were actually incorrect. And when they looked at the seat belt installations, 44% of those seats that were installed with the vehicle seat belt, 44% were correct, but 56% were incorrect. So again, these are really big numbers trying to, or that children are not safe riding in their vehicle. And I know that there have been times trying to install a car seat, reaching into those belt paths, small belt paths, trying to get the seat belt from one side of the car seat shell to the other. It's kind of like looking into that black hole or trying to put that square peg in the round hole. And sometimes we just get frustrated. So the revolutionary execution of the Clicktight installation, which we're going to walk through here in just a minute, actually eliminates the need to reach into that black hole from one side of the car seat to the other, because it's actually going to make the vehicle seatbelt path visible to you, right in front of you, so it's going to make it very, very easy. With all of this information and trying to understand and what caregivers want, BRITAX took on that challenge, went out and did customer research, read reports, talked to parents, looked at data in our consumer services department, and we identified that caregivers really want to safely install their child restraint. They want it to be secure, they want it to be easy, and they want to be able to do it with what's in their vehicle today. So they either want to be able to do it with that latch system that's in their vehicle, or they want to do it with the vehicle seatbelt that they use to restrain themselves. And a lot of people want to be able to do it without experts, without those certified technicians, because they want to feel like they can do it each and every time that they might need to move that car seat, and they want to feel good about it. They want to feel competent. So with that, BRITAX went to our imagination box and started working and came out with Clicktight installation system. And it truly is a system that can install with the vehicle seatbelt safely, securely, and easily every time. And with that, what I'd like to do now is just walk you through how the Clicktight system works. So the Clicktight system is revolutionary, as I mentioned, from the perspective that without disassembling the car seat, there's no removing covers, lifting covers, detaching harnesses, anything to get to the belt path, including no longer reaching into that dark hole of the belt path, which tend to be very small as well. And the Clicktight system will simultaneously tension and lock the vehicle seatbelt for that secure installation using, again, the vehicle seatbelt. So when a seat with Clicktight comes out of the box, it's going to have this nice piece of printed material for point of purchase, and the little round portion will be hanging out, kind of laying in the seating area, telling you as the purchaser that, hey, start here by squeezing to open and lifting the cover. You do need to disconnect the buckle. So you're going to open up the buckle tongues, but you do not have to, however, release the harness, or loosen it, or the chest clip. Just undo the buckle tongues. And then you will reach into these two finger slots where that printed material was hanging from, and you're simply going to squeeze and lift. And part of the seating area will actually rotate up and around such that it opens up the belt path for you. And you can see at the back area here the green labels, and that's actually indicating to you the belt path where we are going to route the vehicle seatbelt. Okay? So then, after we've opened it, we're going to take the vehicle seatbelt and we're going to route it over the armrests across those green belt paths. And you can see that there's labels on the inside once I open it, as well as on the outside of the shell of the car seat, so that you can be sure you're putting the vehicle seatbelt through the proper belt path. Once you route it over the armrests through the green belt path, you're going to buckle it. You don't have to pre-compress. There's no pushing down on the car seat. There's no putting your knee in it and trying to pull and struggle with tensioning the seatbelt. You're just going to route it, buckle it, make sure there's no big gaping bubbles or bulges of slack in the webbing, and then you're simply going to push Clicktight down until you hear an audible click that it's locked back into position. And then, of course, no installation is complete without attaching the Versa tether or the top tether. Now, top tether is required to be used for these seats for children who weigh between 65 and 90 pounds when the harness is being used. And that's as simple as the installation gets. So now that we've kind of walked through the basic installation process before we move on to additional features of the car seat, Erica, do you have any questions that we should address?
I do have two. Someone asked how strong is the flame retardant in the car seats, and if they wash it, would it be less effective? And what's the best way to wash the covers?
So BRITAX has in our user guides for all of our seats, this one included, is that covers are hand washable. We do not recommend machine washing because it is a little more rigid and tough on the fabric, and over time, depending on how often the car seat is washed, but it will start to break down the flame retardancy of the materials. So that is a reason that we do prescribe hand washing only.
And another one was, when you need to switch from the lower anchors to the seat belts for the child restraints, can an inflatable seat belt safely be used as this anchor?
At current time, with the two seats on the market with Clicktight, which I will introduce their names to you here in a minute, inflatable seat belts in Ford motor vehicles are not permitted with these two seats because we have not been able to test them as of yet. We are working on that with Ford Motor Company, and any change to that policy would be posted on our website as an FAQ and made available for people to print off. So at current time, they are not. That may or may not change with our further evaluation.
And then the one more before we move on. The rest of the questions that are coming through, we'll definitely get them all answered for you. But one more that I just wanted to ask was, what do you recommend if you don't have a top anchor spot?
Okay, so if you do not have a top tether anchor, in most vehicles manufactured since 2000, you will have at least 2, if not 3, in your vehicle. If you have a vehicle, if you're trying to use it in just a seating position that does not have a top tether, my first question would be, is there another seating position in that vehicle, a different one that has a top tether anchor, that you could just install the car seat in a different seating position? If your vehicle does not have a top tether at all, or you do not have the ability, or you have the ability to go to a different seating position with a top tether anchor, first of all, you could contact your vehicle manufacturer to see if there is a retrofit kit that they could install to put a top tether anchor there. Some vehicles do have retrofit kits. If you're not able to move to a different seating position with a top tether, you're not able to get a retrofit kit installed, the answer simply is you don't have a top tether anchor accessible. At 65 pounds in harness mode, you would need to convert to booster mode.
All right, great. Yeah, if you want to go ahead, and like I said, there's a bunch of questions that are coming through, so we will get them all answered to you for you. If not right now, then at the end of the webinar, Sarah will be glad to take a look at all the questions, and she'll get back to us, and we can forward the answers off.
All right. Thank you, Erica. We'll continue on here. So the first seat to the market is the Frontier 90. It is a combination harness to booster seat. It does start in harness mode at 2 years of age and 25 pounds. So the child must be both 2 years of age and 25 pounds, up to 90 pounds with the internal harness. It does have 9 vertical harness positions, and it has 2 buckle positions. In booster mode, it can be used 40 to 120 pounds. It does have a 9-year expiration date from the date of manufacture. That is regardless of whether you're using it in harness mode or using it in booster mode. Okay, this is a when it converts to booster, it is high back booster only. The back does not come off. And the Frontier 90 will have a MSRP of $329, but when you look at that over a 9 years of use, that's a mere $36 a year. So very economical in the long run. Pinnacle 90 is the second platform that is being launched in the market right now. It is the same fitment and child requirements, so 2 years of age and 25 pounds, up to 90 in the harness, 40 to 120 in booster. The very simple difference between the Frontier 90 and the Pinnacle 90 is that the Pinnacle 90 has the side impact cushion technology. So the Frontier 90 replaces the Frontier 85 in the market. The Pinnacle 90 replaces the Frontier 85 SICT. We just simply gave it a completely different name, removing the acronym for the side impact cushion technology from the product name. And this seat will have an MSRP of $369. I'm going to walk through a few other features that we have brought into this platform. So Safe Cell technology we launched into the market a couple of years ago with our convertible refresh, and we brought it to the harness to booster category. Safe cells, in the event of a crash, when that seat is vertically loaded with the child weight and the forces, safe cells will actually compress, lowering the center of gravity of the child. In dropping the center of gravity for the child instead of the child rotating or having a forward excursion. So by dropping their center of gravity, they actually rotate forward less. We brought integrated steel bars to this platform as well that we integrated into our convertibles previously. A, well received. B, it allows us to lighten materials in other areas by relying on the rigidity of the steel bars, as well as it strengthens that connection to the vehicle seat and reducing, again, the forward flexing. Notice the BRITAX head safety technologies at the top of the page. You know, when we turn children forward facing and we don't use the top tether, we put them at greater risk because of the excursion limits, and vehicles are so small today because of the current economy and fuel that children are actually making contact in the event of a crash with the back of that front seat that is in front of them. Of course, the energy absorbing VersaTether that BRITAX has had on all of its seats that have had tethers. The 2-point attachment, it does have the staged release portion built into that as well. And we've added that new white badge or labeling to it to help bring attention to the top tether, because the top tether really is such a misuse. They're not attached when they really could be attached and should be attached. So we want to get those tethers attached, and hopefully this will bring more attention to your eyes as consumers if you're not using your top tether to say, oh, what is this black strap, and maybe I should be using it. Side impact protection. So we do have the deep sidewalls, the U-shaped head restraint, giving us or minimizing that lateral movement of the child's head, neck, and spine in the event of a side impact crash. And then on the Pinnacle, we do offer the side impact cushion technology, which further reduces the amount of energy that that occupant sees by around 45% in the event of a lateral impact. We do offer Secure Guard as an accessory for both the Frontier 90 and the Pinnacle. They don't come with the seat. Like I said, they are an accessory because we find that really by the time a child should be converting to booster, you're going to buy it, you're going to be using it as a harness, that the secure guard will most likely be misplaced. But the secure guard actually takes and turns your 3-point seatbelt in booster mode into a 4th point between the child's legs, keeping the child from submarining underneath that lap belt. Of course, it has a 5-point harness with the hug system, the harness ultra guard system on it. And the hugs pads actually, again, are another feature that help to reduce the amount of distance that that child's head and chest can travel forward. And then we have the 5-point harness, of course. A big yay for both of these products from a user's perspective with my granddaughters is that recline is now a front adjust. It's very similar to what we have on the convertibles today. It does have to be uninstalled to change the recline. But note that you can use upright or recline in harness mode, where in the previous platforms you could only use the recline in harness mode. But for booster mode, it still must be upright. That is not optional. The buckle positions, 2 buckle positions, you can see that it has an I-shaped slot in the shell. Very easy to move to the other buckle position. And then 9 harness positions, as I mentioned. They are in 1-inch increments from 12.5 to 20.5 inches to give that nice proper fitment around the growing child. An even bigger yay for this platform is that it brings the harness adjustment, height adjustment for the harness and the head restraint to the front. So right there at the top above the BRITAX logo and True Side Impact logo on the head restraint, you squeeze just like you do on the BRITAX convertibles today and raise and lower the harness and head restraint. So there's no more uninstalling the seat in this category, being harness booster category from BRITAX, to change the harness height. As I mentioned, quick adjust harness. It does have lower latch connectors on it. When you open the Clicktight area, right behind the buckle, you will see a label that is placed on top of the connectors. You would peel the label off. The connectors are snapped into the or onto the shell, and you would route the lower connectors, the latch connectors and webbing through that same green belt path. But in all honesty, we're anticipating that installation is so easy with the vehicle seatbelt that lower anchors probably are not going to be used in harness mode or used very often. If you install it with the seatbelt and Clicktight, you won't have to worry about what those lower anchor capacities are and when you need to switch. And then we brought easy remove covers to this platform as well. So not only can you adjust the harness height without uninstalling, you can now take the cover off as well for cleaning without uninstalling from the vehicle. So with all of those great features, this is what is coming to the market and is shipping now. The Frontier 90 in 5 different fabric choices, and then the Pinnacle 90 has 3 different fabric choices, as you can see here. Unfortunately, GoToWebinar does not allow us the ability to play videos for you because of streaming capacity, etc. But if you already haven't done so, I would encourage you to go to BRITAXUSA.com and click on the Clicktight video that is linked right to our homepage, or you can go to USA.com/Clicktight. and it will give you a visual of really how easy the installation of this seat is with Clicktight. You really, really, honestly will not believe it. And I've had many, many people tell me, you know, I saw the video and I didn't believe it until I actually got my hands on it. But there are many resources here on our BRITAX website that are there for you and to educate you about car seat safety, as well as our the features of our specific platforms. So with that, Erica, do we have additional questions that we have not answered yet?
There are a lot of questions, so you're going to be a busy little beaver answering all of these.
Awesome.
So a couple that we can go over real quick here. For the Pinnacle 90, how do you adjust the buckle position? You can just touch on that again.
Okay, so the buckle, changing the buckle position on both seats is identical. So you will lift up the Clicktight mechanism. You will pull the front portion of the cover forward by simply unhooking 2 elastic loops. And the buckle and the belly pad will pull right through the cover. You can turn the webbing in the I-shaped slot and just slide it up to the next buckle slot, turn it back horizontally, and put your buckle right back through the cover. So you don't actually remove the cover, you just have to lift that front flap forward to access the buckle slot in the shell.
And with that, do you have to re-thread the harness for the child's height, or does it adjust easily like the BRITAX advocates say?
And that is the quick adjust harness. So when you squeeze, so the answer to that question simply is no. You do not disconnect the harness, you do not re-thread it. Loosen the harness by pushing in on the adjuster, by the adjuster strap, and loosening the harness, and then you squeeze at the top of the child's head area, at the top of the head restraint, the little gray handle, just like our convertibles today, and you just lift and lower it.
Got it. Another question was, one of the attendees, they have a 3-year-old, and based on their height and weight limit, they can fit within the guidelines for either a harness, booster type seat, or a convertible car seat. Is one safer or preferred versus the other for that age?
For that age, neither one is safer or preferred. I mean, it's about what works for you, your family, and in your vehicle. Now, if that child is already forward-facing, because again, both of these seats are only forward-facing. If they're forward-facing and you're looking for another seat for that 3-year-old who is at least 25 pounds, which I'm assuming they will be, a harness to booster is probably a better choice simply because you will get a higher weight harness capacity out of it, and then it will convert to that high back booster seat. Where if you buy a convertible, you will then later on need to buy a booster seat.
Okay, great. Well, like I said, there's a bunch of questions that I'm going to forward over to you, Sarah. Everybody has a lot of questions and are really interested in this new system. And we really want to just thank you for joining us today and being a part and educating us and all the people who joined us.
Well, thank you. Thank you for having me, Erica. It was fun to be here.
Great. So as a thank you to all of our customers, if I can get the slide to progress here. It doesn't want to let me here. I'm sorry. Hang on one second. Well, for whatever reason, the slide isn't going to let me go on. Oh, there we go. Well, there we go. We want to offer everybody a $15 off your next purchase of $100 or more. You only have to enter the code Clicktight in the checkout, and it'll take that $15 off for you. So thanks everybody for attending, and we will do our best to get the answers to these questions out to you as soon as possible. So thanks and have a good day, everybody.
Thanks, Erica. Take care.
Thanks, Sarah.